Damn it.
our much anticipated. Where is the drum roll? Okay, report on the August 2024 Operations Department.
Good afternoon, President Thomas, directors. So August was characterized by the usual suspects, 37 service line repairs in the Rancho Calaveras area, 17 in Copper, 6 on the pass, 5 in West Point. One item to highlight, thank you, is the fact that there were 86 items within the electrical component of the office report. So hats off to the electricians. They do a ton of work. Excuse me. And also 343 USAs or underground service alerts. And so we're at 2,752 USAs over the course of the past year. And all the yards that you can see associated with PG&E's strengthening of their infrastructure has direct impact on CCWD staff and infrastructure in terms of underground service alerts, which have an associated cost, a couple bucks for each USA. So,
With the PG&E request for, identifying the lines on the USA Alert,
yep,
we had to pay for every one of those essentially, right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're in a block, depending on 1 to 500, you pay $300, 500 and up, you pay more, 1,000 and up, you pay more.
And do we pay in arrears for that membership?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after we've done all the identifying and how many tickets, then we're billed for the next membership.
That's
At
correct.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And PG&E is actually the largest. They pay the most also, so they complete the most USAs in the state as well. And I think number 2 is, I think it's Pac Bell. So yeah, interestingly enough. And they keep track of all the folks, even down to there's one USA for a little small utility in the state. So pay $300 for that USA.
It's important for sure.
It definitely is. Yes, absolutely. So, as you all know, particularly Director Davidson, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we've got to start in Rancho
Will there
Calaveras.
be any holds this time?
Yeah, so we do.
Yeah.
So here we are with the flare replacement on Dolly. So these come up when the service lines are replaced. Oftentimes it's the result of the failing flare on the water main. So in the image on the right, you can just see the water main is partially exposed with the flare connected. And the great work that the Judy Lynn crew is doing, you can see the service pulled out of the ground with multiple repair clamps on it. So, with 37 service lines over the last year, we're still in the noise phase of kind of what are we looking at in terms of failure? We have just too many right now. And so we need to get ahead of that. That's part of the good work our utility crew does. Excuse me. This was an interesting one. Service line on Baldwin that was sleeved in a piece of plastic that developed a leak. So our folks replaced the entire service line. And you can see it sitting in the conduit there in the image on the right and the left. But what's really interesting is the poly developed this like blistering. And we think it could be from the heat sitting inside that piece of conduit
Is that what that is?
and getting hot. Our guys out in the field have never seen it before. It's really interesting one. So
Do you, that particular material it's made out of, do we have a lot of that out in the field?
but we do. We have a ton of it. Most of the service lines in this service area, actually all of our service areas are made out of polypropylene. So we've seen it flake off, almost like if you can imagine like a corn flake coming off the poly, but not bubbling like that. At least these folks have not seen that.
Is that something that could cause a break?
I would definitely think it would have an impact on the integrity of the service line over time, but it does. I have a piece of it in my office. Actually, I was going to bring it, but I forgot that. So you can see the inside of the line, and it doesn't
Look like that?
It's not that. So I would say over time, I'm sure, but in this case, it wasn't the result of this.
How long had this one been in the ground? Any idea?
I mean, judging, I would say for quite some time, perhaps 20 years, but that's just a guess at this point.
Could it have been damaged like that in the beginning and then they sleeved it because it was damaged?
Good point. Could happen. Could happen. It's just kind of one of those ones that makes you scratch your head a little bit.
Because there shouldn't be, any air or any,
Right.
there shouldn't be anything
Yeah.
to create heat down in there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point you make, actually.
Could it have been
could have already.
bubbled like that and
Yeah,
they used it anyway.
Yeah, let's put a
You know,
sleeve on it.
storage.
Hey, it's bubbling, let's put a sleeve. Yeah,
Yeah.
take them wild. So, you know, more of the same, service line and curb stop replacement along Hotley. And, you know, can't say enough great things about the work our folks do. Kind of the new flavor in the image on the right is you see a new Mueller meter with a node next to it. With the meter box lid somewhat askew, the node is actually the antenna. So that's kind of what some of our meters down in the low country look like now. I guess they're called high pressure meters there. 2-inch main repair on Pastorello. So this is the infamous Bluebell that our folks got in there and repaired during the month of August. You can see the full circle repair clamp on that 2-inch. Hydrant repair. So we had conversations last month with the fire protection groups. We kind of after action review of the Arrow Fire, we talked about how the district works with local fire departments to ensure the integrity of fire hydrants. This is more of that conversation along Hogan Dam Parkway. We have a stretch of distribution system and this fire hydrant was out of service. And so kind of walking through the stem with the bolt at the base of the stem, you can see it had just broken off in the image on the right. So our folks will go in and take repair components and replace the failed components and rebuild the fire hydrant. So you can see the cleaning of the stem in the image on the left, getting off the corrosion, the image on the right, the breakaway flange being replaced, the body of the hydrant being put back after everything is cleaned and the breakable parts are rehabilitated. So, you know, can't say enough great things about the work our folks do. This is an interesting one. So we have some of our meter boxes that are just continually getting damaged from vehicle traffic. And so sometimes we'll install bollards to protect the meters, and that's what we did here in this case. So the distribution team members, you know, poured steel pipe filled with concrete in front of in this case, it's a fire hydrant, and then paint those safety yellow to keep our infrastructure, and actually there's a meter, keep everything protected. Great work there. This one's an interesting one, Dunn Road. So we've had, you know, I talk about how some of our service line work effort is still in the noise phase. And so this was, I would say, if you could use the word victim of that would be what I would use. So this leak on Dunn Road had been taking place for years. And there was just simply so many service line leaks, and the water all like to travel from those leaks into this area along Dunn Road. So anytime we would expose this main and try to find where this water main leak was, we would just have water coming in from all directions and really just unrecognizable. So there was no ability to really define where the leak was coming from. And so the utility crew last year replaced all the service lines along Dunn Road and the county actually addressed some stormwater along Dunn Road, and we still had water. And so in August, the construction crew worked with the distribution crew, and Pat Burkhart, our construction maintenance manager, actually out in the ditch working with the guys. They found this leak that has been leaking for approximately 15 to 18 years.
And that's this one that
And
we
that's
see
this
picture.
So it's been repaired. In the image on the right, with the black rubber beneath the full circle repair clamp is simply just blown out. So there was a repair at some point in time, and that rubber had just blown out over time, and it was weeping and causing a leak. And so hats off to the guys for finding that
Yeah,
and fixing that. And that one's a good one. Here's one in copper. So AC mains, oftentimes in the dry weather, well, I guess, you know, oftentimes they do what's called shear breaks. So the main will just literally break kind of in a perfect circle or a ring around the main, and that's what we have here. And so those are repaired with a full circle clamp. And this is a cross-country line that feeds the Reed's Turnpike pump station. So really a critical line that needed to be repaired after hours repair. Was ID'd kind of late, and the folks out in the copper distribution crew did a great job getting after it and getting it fixed. Here's one in West Point. So this is a 2-inch raw line. right at the base of the Bummerville Reservoir Dam face. And so there was a significant amount of water coming out of the dam in front of the dam, which can, as you imagine, can, freak everybody out pretty quickly. And so Doug did a great job up in West Point of diving in and understanding what was actually going on. And it's turned out to be a valve. You can see the brass kind of just falling apart in the image on the left. And so he was able to get in with the operator, Scott Grutzmacher, and they were able to replace that failed valve and piping and install a new valve and new piping, and then reestablish the G5 lids on the line. So hats off to them for knocking that one out.
If you could go back to the prior slide, there's the 2-inch raw main right there. Yeah, on the previous one, yeah. There's an orange tool there. It looks like it's a jackhammer, but is it a battery powered jackhammer?
Yeah, it looks like it's a battery powered Sawzall, I
Sawzall.
believe. But is that a little jackhammer?
Cutting the pines.
Well, it's a little spade.
Yeah. Oh.
He had one of those small jackhammers.
He does have, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, a little battery powered jackhammer.
Nice.
With a little spade bit on it.
That's what it looked like to me.
I would have loved to have had one of those when I was digging in trolls. It would have been great.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Middle Fork Pump Station. So as you all know, Middle Fork is a secondary source of supply for the West Point Water Treatment Facility. And, over the past few years, we've had a significant amount of debris buildup down at the pump station. So the treatment and distribution crews that work down there together worked closely with our facilities maintenance folks, and we're able to pull out all the snags and debris that were stuck in front of the intake there on the Middle Fork. And as you can see, it's quite a pile. So moving up the hill to Arnold, and reflecting back again on the relationship with the fire protection districts. This one's an interesting one. The image on the left, you can see the hydrant on Veneto just partially buried. I think that was even brought up in the conversation about fire hydrant O&M. And so this was a replaced fire hydrant. You can see the valve and the hydrant in the image on the right with the exposed ditch there. And so just hats off to the construction crew for the great work that they do, because you take a hydrant that, was partially buried somewhat in the bushes a little bit, some growth around it, and then put a concrete apron around it with a valve, and that's just much more effective,
Look how beautiful.
much easier to operate. Yeah, and it's super helpful. So
Yeah.
How long did it take them to drill that hole?
is that a couple day effort right there? That's a 1-day effort for the whole shoot match. I mean,
They took their,
yeah, take the backhoe and excavate and So some other work that the construction crew was able to do with our distribution crew up in Arnold was abandon an old PRV that was made obsolete through the Reach 3A project. And you can see the condition of that piping in the image on the left in that vault. Just, corroded and old. And so we were able to eliminate the PRV and blind flange the piping. And then, you're not really doing your job unless you're also looking at cost-effective ways to reuse equipment and infrastructure. So that box went home with the construction crew, and it will be deployed elsewhere in a different capacity. So that's great work. Yeah, it's always good to see that.
what kind of inventory do you have on PRVs? Anything?
We do. That's a great question, though, because in the past couple of years, we have budgeted to have replacement PRVs installed. So oftentimes what will happen is we'll have a 6-inch or a 4-inch PRV in say in the White Pines barn or in the shop here at the yard. And then that's usually it. So if we're going to have like a large 8-inch PRV with a bypass, we're going to order that through capital outlay through the budget process. And once we receive it, we're going to make a plan to install it. So almost as if you were on cue, Director Underhill.
That was nothing.
The Dorrington Pump Station PRV replacement was one thing that the construction and the distribution crew recently completed in the month of August. They did a fabulous job. And one thing we don't really highlight enough is the amount of planning and consideration that the guys out in the field take into doing these jobs. And so you can see, this is a couple of the images here to illustrate kind of the thought process. So they're going to look at maps. They're going to look at, if we have them, as-built. And then they're going to look at what they found via potholing out in the field to verify whether or not as-built exist. Let's verify that information. Is the pipe where it says it is? And so then they take that all of that information and they develop a plan. And that's what you see in the image on the left is Joe does a fabulous job, works with Roger and the rest of Pat's teams to kind of develop a game plan. And then they understand that we're going to need to put kickers on this piping. And so the guys build forms for kickers so that when they do install the piping, they have forms ready to go. And that's kind of,
That's what these are.
yeah. And then so kind of taking it even a step further is then there's the conversation with Kelly G that happens and with customer service about notification and letting everybody know, hey, we're gonna complete this work effort. There's gonna be a water outage. And let's also put up signage to notify everybody. And so that's what you see here. Signage, kind of just letting everybody know, let's keep that signage up for a couple of weeks. Let everyone start to understand, okay, this is actually going to happen. And then let's replace that good old redwood box that has a really critical pressure reducing valve in it next to a pump station that's probably been there for, I don't know, 50 years. And so then the work happens and you can see the piping, inlet and outlet piping being plumbed. In the image here on the right on the screen, you can just see the PRV up at the top of the screen. And then here's one of the kickers that was fabricated in the shop. The guys were able to put it in. And then you can see the crane, which we have to schedule, setting the pressure reducing valve vault.
So this is a given, I'm sure. So because that kicker, that cement block, it's keeping that turn of water from
That's right.
releasing or breaking or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Cool.
So it just illustrates the consideration that our guys have. They're understanding the hydraulics of what the work is that they're about to do. And they're preparing to address any deficiencies that might happen.
Well,
While
that's
they-
why we have such good staff out there.
Yeah, it's great stuff. It's just really great. And so, you know, the vault in the image on the left is set. Joe and company taking a breath and taking a look at the work that was done. And so hats off to them. That was a big job. And
Absolutely.
they knocked it out. PRV is in operation currently and everything's smooth, knock on wood. New valve installations. So, you know, along with the considerations for installation of new construction come the considerations of how do we optimize our system and make it better. So some months ago, we had a water main break that resulted in Snowshoe Springs HOA, which receives purchased wholesale water directly from us, having to reduce their use and some folks were out of water. Our folks in the distribution crew were able to look at a way to provide a redundant source of supply. Like if we install a valve right here, if we have an issue over here on this part of our system, we can actually keep them in water by sending water this way. And so that's what part of what this work effort was, is a way to optimize our system and provide better customer service to our friends, neighbors, and customers. So that work always continues, as does the work with the CAL FIRE crew. So those folks do great work for us. And here's some images of the work that they did recently at the White Pines barn and on the approach to White Pines, just making sure that our facilities are safe, the principal space is intact. The good old Forest Meadows Pond, doing cleaning work around that. They come down like a swarm of bees and just and clean it all up. So hats off to Ron, Rose, and Eric Martinez, who work with the CAL FIRE crews, and hats off to the crews for all the good work they've done. I mentioned the electricians had 86 items. A lot of them are associated with, you know, here's an ABB MagMaster flow meter troubleshooting at Sea Tanker Cup. So the flow meter dies. Treatment operators can't see what the flow is on the computer system on SCADA, remote from the facility. Electricians deploy, find out what the heck's going on and fix it. And these guys just, the variability of tasks that they take on and complete is impressive. So here we are. You know, you call this a nitrogen compressor, but it's actually an air compressor. But at an ozone generator, you're siphoning off the nitrogen that exists naturally in the air, but you're using an air compressor to do so. So here they are, troubleshoot, repairing the air compressor. Hour meters are critical. So we talk about infrastructure and infrastructure age and replacement. So we have hour meters on our pumps and motors, and our operators document the hours and will adjust the operations of pumps based on how old or how much operation each of the pumps has. So it's really important that those hour meters work. So
What's the
electricians-
life expectancy of a pump in hours?
Oh, you can get 8 to 10,000 hours out of a pump easily if you maintain it properly, easily. And I would say probably double that, 10 years of pump operation. Yeah. Flow meter reads are critical for all of our facilities. And so when you have an erratic flow meter and you have to troubleshoot that, you call the electricians out and they do a great job of taking care of business there. And, hats off to Doug Turner and Scott Grutzmacher up in West Point. Do a great job of meeting our needs up there. And with that, do you all have any questions?
Awesome.
Yeah, Damon, could you, toggle back to, slide 27? It's an old PRV abandonment. Oh, right there. I noticed this when you had it up there before, that there's a lot of, dirt, rocks and debris in the bottom of that, whether that's the old redwood tank or a concrete tank. But is that coming up through gopher activity or something in the bottom of the vault?
I'm not sure about this particular vault, but some of the vaults were at a depth that somewhere in the past, the district added rock to the bottom of some of these PRVs to make them shallower. So I don't know if you guys recall.
That's off of it was vertical. That used to be a redwood box. We had to replace that several years ago. So it was attached to the 3A.
So,
it comes in vertical.
so I would just say that that's the floor then. That's the dirt on the floor for that particular PRV vault.
But it looks like that the dirt has come up to the midpoint of the piping or something, but my question was, you have these new vaults that you're putting in, do you ever put like a very poor cement mixtures in the bottom just to keep rodents and stuff from coming out?
Yes, all manner. I was going to see if we can see it here in this one, and it's kind of hard to see. All manner of the above. So some of them have floors. Some of them you'll pour the floor. A lot of the work that the guys up in the past have been doing is if there isn't a drain in the floor, because a lot of the reason that's why there wouldn't be a floor. is so you can allow the water that gets in there to just naturally perk into the ground.
Sure.
But a lot of what our guys do is they go out with a hole saw and they drill a hole and they work to make a port to evacuate any water that shows up to the vault, from failure of piping or whatnot. But we have all manner of the above. Yep.
Good pictures, like them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just had one question.
Yeah.
I know we've been talking about this lead
Yes.
thing, and you did have a notation that you participated in to review the plan for lead service line inventory. So, there is a plan.
Yeah. So the plan is in effect and it's almost complete. So
Oh, okay.
with the lead service line inventory, if just a real quick, all public water utilities in the country are required to complete an inventory for customer-owned service lines and provide an understanding of what it's made out of. Is it lead? Is it galvanized? Is it galvanized in need of replacement? Is it copper? Is it plastic? Is it PVC? Is it polypropylene? And so there's a couple ways that the feds are allowing water districts to do this. And one is by statistical analysis. So CCWD presented a plan to the California regulatory bodies who then report to the EPA. That was a statistical analysis. So what we did is rather than look at all 13,000 plus service lines, we looked at a random representation right around a little over 1,000. And based on that assessment, we report out. So we have until October 16th to
I
complete
knew
the
it
work
was
effort,
coming up, right.
And we have, as of right now, about 400 left, less than 400. So our crews are doing a fabulous job and they're ahead of schedule.
Because I know we had, Because we had talked about how extensive that was going to be, and if you're, you're almost through, you guys have done wonders.
Yeah, and I gotta acknowledge our mobile MMS folks, our colleagues over there that work with us, because they highlighted the statistical analysis option and made the recommendation to us, and that was a great help because that allowed us to just do a representation, and it's really kind of made this giant behemoth a lot smaller for CCWD. I will tell you that a lot of utilities have not even started, and a lot of larger cities have not even started. And, you know, in some ways rightly so, because a lot of folks in California were continuing to say, hey, feds, time out. How are we supposed to tell you what private homeowners infrastructure is made out of? And how are you going to require that of us? So there's a lot of folks still trying to understand the requirement. And so we were able to look at 1,000 and knock it out. That's a victory for us.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's just great. Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to ask you if this would be a real tough one for you to do, and I don't think so. Could you just give 2 months of water production? Just,
So we have.
I know you have June.
Yeah, so we have basically the last 9 years of consumption aggregated, but we could give you a kind of a 2-month look at water production and the difference.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
It,
yeah,
just for my information, I don't know, but how anybody.
I think it's a great thing to be looking at.
yeah.
Thank you.
No
I agree. I think others do too.
We could kind of do it similar to the consumption in a graph form. Is that what?
Right. No, that would be perfect. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
And then I only had one question, and I was reading where was it? You were talking about Baldwin, for example, the Jenny Lind distribution system, and how many trouble spots you have, and my goodness, it's just, I mean, do they call in boom, boom, boom?
Yeah. And it's always boom. So our guys they'll complete the work effort. The utility crew will complete the replacement effort, and we're still generating customer service, still receiving calls. And then we put them on what we have. The guys at the shop have a board where they keep track of the service lines, and then they have the work order system. And so it's kind of this constant dance between utility crew, full blown service line replacement, and distribution crew repair. Yep.
Because there were like 10, I believe, on Baldwin, and I just.
Yeah, and I do know that the distribution system supervisor is actually included in his department report, the fact that what he has on the board. So he'll say, in here, for example, we completed, I want to say, 37 repairs, and then it says, let's see here. There's a list of, these are we have the full board left. This is how many services we have on the board that didn't make it off the board in his report. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe how extensive it is. And I just appreciate so much the fact that I can go and look at something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of your slides showed a repair on Dali,
Yes.
and it was a service line that was going off the main, but it had several full circle clamps on it, and that's probably one of the latest installations. All that work that was done by, I think, Tykert did that on Dali.
I forget who did that project.
But it was, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, but
Well, it does, I don't know that we did all of them.
That was the
Right. Yeah,
This was?
right.
Which was this leak in?
This is the. I
It
believe
wasn't like, we didn't do the whole street.
yeah.
May or may not.
The reason I bring it up is that we're always led to understand that, all these breaks in that poly pipe and stuff is because of rock that gets pulled out and put back in. But if I remember on the extension of Delhi, they had to haul all of it out and bring in, the fill was done with, approved fill material. So, you know,
Right.
I thought it was peculiar that there would be so many full circle clamps on Delhi, but maybe it was on the old part.
Yeah, definitely the old part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Got it. All right. You, Pat Royer, you have a question?
Yes, sir. This is for Damon, and good afternoon, Damon.
Good
I've had a
afternoon.
couple people, approach me of late with notices of lead inspections coming up. And my question is the fact that so many homes in the past, prior to the no lead bans took effect, were constructed with, basically a PVC main line, but then copper and lead tin solder, 60/40 solder for couplings and solder and so forth. Well, that lead's the lead content's gonna leach forever in some level, but what will the discovery of lead in those pipes, what impact will that have on the customers?
That's a great question. So really, in a nutshell, it's to be determined. We haven't heard from the EPA on what their plans are. But when it comes to the inventory, really our system plays almost as critical a role as the customer side. So for example, fortunately in this case, almost every single service line that we have is polypropylene. We don't have really a heck of a lot of, say, galvanized from before 86 with the potential for a connection to a different metal. And if we did, that would raise a flag for CCWD when it came to the lead service line inventory. But when it comes to the report out, and what the EPA is currently trying to understand is if the water purveyor has a plastic line and it's connected to a meter, and then the customer has an old galvanized line, that's going to be something that the EPA notes. But like I said, we don't know what they're going to do with that information yet. However, if it was the water purveyor had a galvanized line that perhaps was connected to some sort of brass or copper, and then the customer had a galvanized line, that would be a red flag for CCWD. And the reason that is because I want to say it was 2017, it might have been a little bit later, all the California water purveyors completed a lead inventory of their own infrastructure at that time. And so the EPA is using the information that they have based on our report out from 2017 to help inform this work that they're doing now.
Okay, so you've already experienced the resistance from the customers that just don't want to have their stuff inspected because of potential costs. So I just, the curiosity is what's trying to be discovered, what the impact's going to be, because they don't want to spend any more money than they already are. So what I relate to them as it comes to me is what you're giving to me now. So basically, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah, so it's an information gathering effort. I've had plenty of phone calls, Pat, from folks that say respectfully, hey, don't come on my property. And we respect that. And also, one acceptable method is you can tell me what your service line is made out of, and we can include that in the inventory. So some folks have opted for that as well.
I heard that recently, as a matter of fact. So wonderful. Oh, thank you very much for your answer.
You got it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody on a cell phone?
Look at that can and string.
Can and a string? Okay. That concludes your report. I appreciate your effort once again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you to all
Thank
staff
you.
out there.